Yo, what's up, dogs? I went and saw the Holdovers last week on a Friday, and it was a matinee showing, so an afternoon movie, 12 o'clock sharp. I haven't done an afternoon movie in so long, and I thought, you know what? It was a rain day. I have nothing else to do, so I ordered my ticket online. There's like three people in total when I bought my ticket. And when I got to the theater, I brought a tea with me. I had a package of Halls just in case I had any coughing fits during the film. And I got myself a little donut to munch on. And I just got into the theater. And when I got there, there was at least 20 people there. I was actually quite surprised that there was this many people there for this film. And I'll be honest with you, I was the youngest one there, and I'm in my 40s. So you can already tell what type of crowd was there. This was definitely a movie full of people from the 50s to the 80s. Like, I'm telling you, it was a wide range. And I was surprised at how many people showed up. I still am. You know what? Honestly, it was a fun time. This audience laughed at like all the jokes because there's a lot of jokes in here. There's a lot of dry humor in here, and sometimes there's a couple dark jokes in there too. But it's really dry humor, very sometimes even a little highbrow humor where there's layers to these jokes, and you're like, oh, we're going for a sophisticated humor I see here, or more of an older sense of humor. And the people that were watching this movie were eating it up, and so was I. And so it made the theater experience fun, a fun afternoon movie with these old heads that are just enjoying this like movie that's set in the 70s. So let's get into it. I had to do some research to figure out this budget because there is no number out there for the actual budget of how much it costs to make this film. And I really scrubbed the internet for it, but I couldn't find anything. So if anyone else out there has found that information, please leave a comment below because I'm curious because I could not find it in my Google search. And the only thing that I could find in my Google search was the film was played for at like a buyer's convention, and it was played in Toronto as well and other film festivals, and someone came around and bought it for $30 million to distribute it. So as far as I know, the film costs $30 million right now, right, as a distribution deal. And so we could also just assume maybe another $10 million in marketing. And so maybe this movie's like a $40 million plus for the budget. I don't know. The numbers are very vague out there. So it's hard to tell what this movie was made for. But we do have a box office back. And this movie, the number is really low. It's 8.3 million domestic only. This movie hasn't been released internationally, and also this film was only released in a very limited run of theaters too. So it wasn't a wide release, very small release. So it's made close to $10 million. It probably will not make $40 million, and that's upsetting. This is a movie that everyone should see, but hey, that's just how the movie industry is lately, man. No one's going out to see films, and I don't know why. So let's get into the critical review of everything. So we have a Rotten Tomato score of 96% certified fresh from the critics, and the audience score is at a very high 92%. The Metacritic I found was 81 out of 100 for the critic side, and the user is at a 7.5 out of 10. And I myself, for my Letterboxd score, I'm sitting at a 4 out of 5, but I am tempted to go 3.5 as I've been thinking about this movie a little bit more. So that's kind of where I'm at, maybe 3.5 to 4 stars total. And I want to note here that I did look for the cinema score, and I couldn't find one. The cinema score does not exist for this film, so maybe that's because it wasn't such a wide release. It doesn't get a cinema score, but I would probably say people give it an A, maybe a B plus. But yeah, so that's that for the critique side of things. And now let's get into this movie. So it is directed by Alexander Payne. I highly recommend you actually go and seek out his films. He is a damn good director, and you should go see his filmography. A couple movies that you should see is probably The Descendants. That's a 2011 film. We got Sideways, which is 2004, which originally stars Paul Giamatti. This is where they hooked up. You got Downsizing, which came out in 2017, which was with Matt Damon. I saw that movie. a while ago. I liked it. What else is there? Is there about Schmidt? Something about Schmidt. That's also good. That's with Jack Nicholson. I forget when that came out. He's got a good lineup of films that you should actually go and see. If this is your first time being introduced to Alexander Payne, then I recommend you watch this film, but then go back to his filmography and check out his other body of work, because he is a very competent director that you should watch. So, that being said, let's get into this wonderful movie. If I don't sound like I'm already buzzing about this film, I loved every minute of it, even though it's a little long. So the film is 2 hours and 13 minutes, and I know you're like, Brett, you always say we should cut this film down. Does this film deserve the 2 hour and 13 minutes? You know what? It should be cut down. There's stuff in here where I'm like, we could cut this down to a nice tight 2, and it'll still be a great film. Like, there's things in here for sure. But that being said, I do have to note that it didn't feel like 2 hours and 13 minutes. Like, the movie really blazed along at a good pace. There are certain scenes in this film that do drag the film for a minute. You're kind of like, it derails the pacing. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't drag the film. It just derails the pacing, where you're like, oh, okay. And then it gets back on the train, back going forward. You know what I'm saying? So there's certain things you could definitely cut, and maybe I'll bring those up as I talk about them. So this movie's also rated R, which I was like, what? How is this an R-rated movie? Is it because there's actual cuss words and very, very brief nudity, which is really a nudie mag, and it's just a pair of boobs? Like, that's getting an R rating right now? Okay, if that's what goes into an R-rated film, this is what it deserves. Like, we could have cut that out so it could get the PG-13, I guess, and then you could get a wider release, maybe? I don't know. Anyways, let's get into this film. So the story is about a teacher who is played by Paul Giamatti. The character's name is Paul Hunnam. And this is a teacher that is not well liked at all. The faculty doesn't like him. The students don't like him. And he's just this history teacher / classic mythology teacher is what I would call him. I've taken classics in university, so I knew what he was talking about. He's a classics teacher. He's not a history teacher. So he's this like individual that is, I would say, walks with a certain air of cockiness and confidence in his own IQ / smarts, or he thinks he's smarter than everyone else. But as you watch this movie, that is a veneer over this real person. He puts this front up in front of everyone to block his history and his troubled past, so to speak. Like, he doesn't come from money. He's not a person of wealth. He's not actually even a good person. But he puts this educational front in front of him of like, look at me, I'm highly sophisticated. I know the classic mythology, and I live my life by a certain honor and a certain codes. And anyone else who doesn't follow these morals or these codes of honor are less than me. But it's all a front, really. And the teachers and faculty like hate this guy. They really do hate him, because there's a scene at the beginning of the movie where he's being talked to by the dean of the Barton Academy. Wait, is it an academy? Yeah, it is academy. It's a school for, I guess, just boys. It's a private school. It's a very high, prestigious school where the students of high aristocratic family go to. So we're talking like CEO billionaires and stuff like that. This is where they send their kids to go and learn. And we learned that Paul actually failed one of the students who's like, comes from I think a president is his son or something like that, right? And he failed him, and this cost the school money in a sense, or prestige points because of what Paul did. And this also reflects bad on the dean, and the dean doesn't like him because of that, and the rest of the faculty also don't like him because he's just overall a general grump and a dickhead to everyone around him. And this reflects in what happens to him, because one of the teachers says that they like made up a story, like their mother or grandmother is dying of like leukemia or something weird, or lymph nodes or something like that. And so he pawns off the holdover duty to Paul, and the faculty's like, give it to Paul, because no one likes him, so they don't care that he doesn't get to have a Christmas at home. But technically, Christmas at home for him is in the same town, is in the school. He doesn't go anywhere because he's a little bit of a loner. And that also plays into this movie a lot too. So because of that, Paul has to stay behind, and he has to stay with the holdovers, which are these students that don't get to go away for the Christmas break. And I believe the Christmas break in this movie starts on December like 21st and goes till January 6th. I believe that's their Christmas break. So they have like 2 weeks of being stuck in the Barton Academy. And it's his job, Paul's job, to look after the well-being of these students that are now under his care. And there's like 6 of them. And we are introduced before like these, before the lockdown happens, we are introduced to some of these students. And we start off with a new actor, new to the scene of Hollywood, Dominic Sessa, who plays Angus Tully. Now, Angus Tully is kind of he's an interesting character. He's an interesting kid. He is kind of like a know-it-all, smart alecky, like rubs everyone the wrong way. I almost feel like he's a young version of like what Paul was, you know, when he was a kid. He's kind of smart alecky. He doesn't like back down from confrontation, and he's also kind of a guy who will swing first before anything, you know, before anything gets resolved. Like, he doesn't care about talking things out sometimes. He's very borderline violent at times, you know what I'm saying? But there is a warm side to him too. He's going through a lot, this kid, and we learn about his trials and tribulations. And I also don't think he comes from money. It's not really explained if he is an actual kid of wealth or if his family married into the wealth. And let me explain this to you, okay? Because a lot of the story revolves around this kid, Angus, and Paul, and their adventure together, their trials and tribulations together, and also another character that I'll bring up too. They're all going through these issues. Now, like what I said about Angus, how he's kind of a smart alecky know-it-all, he is also pretty smart, you know, and he's in Paul's classics class with a bunch of the other students too. And he tries to negotiate a way out of having these tests, and it's the final day of school. He wants to go on this family vacation. He's trying to negotiate with Paul, the teacher, and the negotiations don't go well, and it backfires on Angus, and the classmates around him all hate him even more. Like, there's nothing he's done that's ever like shone a good light on him where the classmates actually like him or think he's cool. They always think he's like a dork and gets them into more trouble than it's worth. And so once the school starts to close down, he is trying to get a hold of his mother to go away. Like, he's been planning to go to, like, I think he's going to like Barbados or something like that, because we do have a scene of him packing up for the winter break, and like, you know, things are going on and stuff like that. Like, he's really excited to go and get away from school and spend time with his mother. And this is where I think he doesn't come from money, because of his attitude. He has a very street smart vibe to him, and I almost think that he doesn't come from his money, and his mom married money, and that's how come he's in a boarding school. Not also because he's a troubled student. Like, he's been kicked out multiple schools, but I feel like this is the first time where he actually has wealth in his life. And it's another element to him where I felt this way, that he doesn't know what to do about it or do with it. He's not from this aristocratic world, and he's not prim and proper. He's got a lot of rough edges. But this could also reflect on his upbringing too. So, and we'll touch on that. So he calls his mom. His mom's like, "Hey, darling, I'm sorry, but me and your stepfather finally have some time to go on a honeymoon together. You know, we haven't had our honeymoon together, so we're going to have to cancel our trip, our family trip, and we're going to do this honeymoon, and then next year we'll go on a Christmas vacation together and all that jazz." And he is like, just like, so upset that his mother is discarding him again. And that's how he feels many times about his family, is he's always being pushed to the side or discarded and like just like forgotten about. He has an edge to him about his family life, you know? And it comes out a lot in this movie. He's a really interesting character, and he's really well developed. And so, because of that, he has to be left behind as a holdover. And he's also a holdover with various other students. And I did not write down all their names, but like there's a football student, there's a dude, and like they're all different ages too. Like there's a little kid who's a Mormon, there's another little kid who's from Korea, and like they're from rich families too. And then there's a pro football player who's his dad doesn't want him to be. His dad doesn't pick him up for the vacation because they're having a fight over the hair. Like, if you don't cut your hair, you can't go on Christmas vacation with us. And he's like, whatever, man. So he's like trying to fight the system. And then there's the actual rival to Angus. And I did actually write his name down, which is Teddy Kuntz. And he is played by Brady Hepner. And I wrote down he's just a rival. And these two have butt heads throughout most of the movie. So what happens is we are also introduced to another character too. Once the holdover section actually happens, we get through like all these little characters. We're introduced to a new character who is played by Divine Joy Randolph, and her character's name is Mary Lane, and she is the, I guess for lack of a better word, she is the chef / lunch lady of the Barton Academy, and she cooks all the meals and prepares everything for the boys that live there or live and go to school there, right? I think they actually live on campus there. Like, it's a thing that you go there and you're there, you know, there's a dormitory and all that stuff. So these boys go and live there. So she's the chef to all of them, and she is going through a lot, as we learn. She has lost her son to the Vietnam War, and her son was a student at the academy as well. The main reason why she worked at the academy in the first place as a chef was because of the education system. She didn't want her kid to go to like a crappy school in Boston. She wanted to give him the best advantage possible. And that was why she went to work there, because she was able to get free tuition for him to go to that school. So that was her sacrifice, was to get her boy the best education possible. And we do learn that he wasn't going to be able to go to the college that he wanted to because they didn't have the money. And so he enlisted in the army so he could go to like a good college when he was done in the army. And he died in Vietnam. And this is taking a big toll on Mary throughout the entire movie. And not only has she lost her son, we do also learn that she also lost her husband at a young age as well. Like before her son was born, if I recall. Like it was right around when like her son was born that he actually passed away as well. So she has been alone her whole, like, for a very long time, you know what I'm saying? And she's lost all the men in her life, and she is just a shell of herself, but she puts on a good face in front of everyone else, but deep down inside, she is actually really heartbroken. And she is a very interesting character, and I liked her quite a bit. And we learn a lot more about her, and we also learn that the students are pretty, like, mean to her. Like, they don't respect her. They look down on her as like lesser class, and like there is a scene where they talk shit about her at the dinner table in the holdover scene. Once all the students are gone, right now they're just having these like little dinners. Because the rules of the holdover is they all stay in one little dorm, like they stay in one building, so to speak, that has heat. Because the rest of the rest of the academy is closed down for the winter. There's no heat going to these areas. So it's like they have like one dormitory, and all they can do in there is, and this is how Paul runs the thing, is you're going to still be treated as students here. You're going to do education from this amount of time, physical education, and we're going to have dinners here. You sleep here, blah, blah, blah. So we get to the scene of where they're having dinners together. So one of the rich boys, Teddy, he starts talking a little shit. I think it was Teddy. And Paul like snaps. He's like, how dare you talk about anything about this woman? You don't know the life that she's lived. And like he defends her, you know, and like kind of like doesn't slap them, but it's a slap of verbs, verbalism slap, bang. And everyone's like, shuts up at the table. And like, they also learn that she can hear everything in the kitchen, And so it's so good. There's so many, I'm telling you, you just get sucked into this world and you're just enjoying it. And I want to point out some things that I enjoyed as I go on before I forget them. I loved every scene in this movie. The building, the academy itself, the Barton Academy, it's made up of different buildings from my research. But it's a beautiful, beautiful place. It's filmed, I believe, it takes place in New England, and I think they filmed it there as well. And there's snow everywhere. It feels snowy. It feels warm and cozy. And if you know what I'm talking about, if you come from a place with snow, when those big snowfalls hit, it just changes the vibe. So when you're watching this movie and you see all the snow and you see the snow falling, and they take moments to show you some very picturesque landscape shots of just snow and just how snow sits on things, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. There's so much about this movie I actually truly love, and I want to see it again because I just loved it. I was cozy. I was nostalgic. But anyways, back to the film. So the boys are able to leave because one of the, I think it's Teddy's family is like a helicopter. They own planes and stuff, so they're super rich. And no, sorry, that's the football player's family. Sorry. He's super rich too, but his dad owns airplanes and stuff like that. So he shows up and picks them all up in a helicopter, and all the kids can leave because they got parental confirmation, except for Angus. They cannot find his mom because she is away on her honeymoon and no one can get a hold of her. So he's left behind. So we have a scene where Paul and Angus go into town I forget why they go into town, but they go into town and, oh man, why do they go into town? And they go to a restaurant there, and Angus is confronted by these youth that go to a different school. They don't go to the private school, they go to the public school. And I think they're blue collar workers too. You know what I'm saying? Different world. And he has a confrontation with them. He doesn't know how to deal with them. And Paul saves the day by being hey, I will buy you guys a beer. And this is also where we meet Miss Lydia Crane, who's played by Carrie Preston. And she's a very bubbly, nice, energetic person. And we find out that she works at this restaurant / bar during the winter season or the holdover season just to make ends meet because she doesn't work at the school anymore because everyone's away. And she works for the dean as, I believe, is his secretary / assistant. So she is just making ends meet down here. And then she they run into her and they have this little conversation and it's a good banter. And even Angus is I think she's into you, and Angus plants this seed in Paul's mind where he's I think she's into you. And Paul's really? And they have some good talks here because we actually learn more about Paul and why there's the classmates make fun of him. They call him Walleye because he has a big glass eye like that, right? And he smells like fish. And he actually talks about it to to Angus. He's the reason why I smell is because my body doesn't break down to certain chemicals or something like that, and my body, it's always been that way, And he's that's weird. And and they talk about the glass eye and stuff. There's a lot of heartwarming moments and bonding things going on in this movie. And then there's more. There's so much more. She invites them to a Christmas party. So Mary, Paul, and Angus go to Lydia's Christmas party, and they have a Christmas party. It's a good Christmas party, but there's some silly scenes in here. Okay, so Angus falls for, I think the character's name is Elise, which is Lydia's niece. Oh yeah, niece Elise. That's right, because Paul was making a joke about that, and so he kind of shares a kiss with her in the basement, and it's falling kind of in love in the sense. And we never that never comes back into play at all. It's only this little Christmas scene. And there's a scene between Lydia and Paul where Paul thinks hey, maybe I can get with Lydia, maybe she is into me. But as he's talking to her, there's in this scene, they're sharing this really private, intimate conversation, and then someone comes in with a bottle of wine. We don't see him, we just see him neck up. We see him neck down, perfect framing. and she goes and hugs him and gives him a kiss, and you see it in the back where Paul's, oh man, it's so good. Smart blocking. And like, we just feel for Paul where he's like, oh man, he's not going to get the girl. He's forever alone, you know? You feel for him. There's like, they really make you feel for this character. It's good. But there's a silly scene in this movie because in this particular scene, actually, is Mary gets a little drunk, and Danny's there as well, and Danny's trying to pursue Mary. Like, he likes her, he's into her, but Mary really doesn't want it, you know? She doesn't want that smoke, and she gets a little drunk, and they're in the kitchen, and she's kind of having a breakdown, a little mental breakdown. She's just lonely. She misses her husband, she misses her son, and Christmas is a very trying moment for her, or it just brings back a lot of memories for her, you know what I'm saying? And she has this like a really weird breakdown moment in the kitchen at this party, and it's intimate. It's like not everyone's seeing it, and they they're like, okay, we got to get you out of here, you know, and they do. But the thing is, the tone shift here, and you'll notice it, is they leave the house together, Mary and Paul. They're walking off, and she's fine. Like, the emotional distress that we just went through in the kitchen of her like having this mental breakdown of missing her loved ones is kind of just like, we're good. And she says something to Paul of like, oh, don't, you shouldn't judge people or something like that. But she's like not distressed anymore. It's a weird tonal shift. And I'm like, what is going on here? This doesn't make sense. It took me out of the movie for a minute there. I'm like, that's weird. And yeah, it was just weird. It's like, well, okay, maybe we could have just cut out all of that and just saved some minutes there because it was a weird scene. Maybe the whole Christmas party could have been cut or cut down or not even in it. I don't know. But anyways, it does give him the spirit, Paul, the spirit, to have Christmas at the Barton Academy. So he does that. And he gets them all gifts, and each one gets a gift of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, which is hilarious. And Paul says, I will get you whatever you want for Christmas, Angus, whatever you want. And Angus is like, can we go to the city? Can we go to Boston? Can we go? And Mary is like, you said anything he wants. So he's like, okay, I'll write it down as a school trip. We do have funds for a class trip. We can do that. We'll go to the museum and make it a big school trip kind of event. We'll go to the city. And Mary's like, you could take me to the city as well. I'm going to go to my sister's house. She's having a baby, blah, blah, blah. So they do that. They have a road trip. They go to drop Mary off at her family's house, which that whole scene could be deleted as well. I think we could have saved some time there because, like, the payoff doesn't matter. There's a lot of things about, like, I like the character of Mary a lot in this movie. I think there's things that they did with her that were really well done. But there are times where I'm like, do you want me to sit more with Mary? Like, there's things that are shown to us about Mary and her world where I'm like, they're quick, but I feel like I need to sit here a little bit more to appreciate Mary in these instances, right? And specifically in these Boston scenes where she's at home with her family, they're quiet. It's very quiet, like just tonally, it's quiet. It's like therapeutic for her, and like I like the scenes, but I feel like I want to be more. I want to be with her a little bit more of her going through this moment where she's kind of like. This is her time to decompress and get these feelings out and share with her family and like kind of like, like rejuvenate herself in a sense. And I think we needed some more time with her, but we get little glimpses of it. And it made me just kind of go, I wish I was with you a little bit more because I'm invested in this character and where we're going with her. You know what I'm saying? Because she's with us like pretty much the whole time in this movie. So she's doing that stuff, and it's a very intimate moment, and we do get to see it, and it's nice, but I wish I had more of it because I like the character, like I said. And then we go with Paul and Angus on their little adventure in Boston. They go to the museum, and Paul has a really good speech there where he explains, like, what you think you're doing today has already been done yesterday. Like, he's like, you're being this rebellious youth and you think that no one else has done this? And he's like, look at all this history here. Look at all this antiquity. Do you think these people didn't already skip school and, F off the teacher and all that? It's a really good sequence and speech, so to speak. And it actually gives Angus a moment to pause and reflect on his own actions. Like, it's nothing new, you know what I'm saying? And it's a good moment in time. So they also, like, bump into a faculty member that they lie to. It's a really good scene. Man, there's so many good scenes in this movie. So Paul lies to this professor, and he lies big time. And Angus joins in on the lie too and helps him through the lie. And it turns out we learn more about Paul's character, of who he was. Like, he's not a good person. He's an alcoholic. He almost lost his job. He did some stuff that would have got him kicked out of the teacher's thing or something. I can't remember it 100%. But the main reason why he's a teacher at Barton is because the old dean loved him and liked him and was like, "You're a good man that was just dealt a bad deck of cards." You know what I'm saying? And so he's actually not really like a tenured teacher or anything like that. He's there. He's luckily that he's there. He's kind of grandfathered into the system. So that was a good scene. We learned more about Angus as well. And this is in these scenes, it makes me wonder if he actually came for money or not. Because we have a moment where they go to the movies together, and Angus is like, "Hey, I gotta go to the washroom. I'm gonna go. I'll be right back." But Paul doesn't trust him, and he follows him outside, and Angus is trying to get a taxi to go somewhere, and Paul's like chases him down. He's like, "Where are you going?" Like, at this point in the movie too, these guys are like really like on the same page. They're like kind of bros in a sense, like they're friends, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever a friend and student faculty friendship could actually be. And he's like, "Why didn't you just ask me to go and take you to where your father is? I would do that for you." And like, I guess Angus just doesn't really trust him, right? So they do go to the Boston psych ward, and that's where his dad is. And it's kind of an interesting moment because you don't know his dad's insane. You actually think his dad's dead. He says his dad's dead many times, but he wants to go see his dad, and you think he's going to go to a grave or something like that, but it's not. It's a psych ward, and that's an interesting scene. So when you get to the psych ward, he meets his dad for like the first time in forever, and his dad's just insane. Like, not insane like the Joker, but he's not all there, you know what I'm saying? And it's really a heartbreaking scene, and Angus is like, you might cry there. It's a heartbreaking scene, okay? There's a couple scenes in this movie where you might actually cry, but it's a heartbreaking moment. And Angus has to come to terms with, like, yeah, my dad will never be my dad. You know what I'm saying? And that's all he really wanted for Christmas, was just to see his dad. And it's something actually his mom kind of denied him access to. And there's reasons, which we find out. So we're coming near the end of the movie here. We're getting a lot of resolve between this, everyone's actions and stuff like that. And we have the dean calls in Paul to talk to Angus's parents. And he tells them the truth. Like, he doesn't lie. He takes it all on the chin. He's like, "Yep, I took him to Boston to see the museum as a class trip. But when we were there, we went to see his father, and that was that." And his mom, the mom was like, "Hey, because you did that, he thinks he can come home now. But you ruined all of my work to get him into a really good facility and get him in the care that he needs." You know what I'm saying? Like, really, she just wanted to put him away without the key and stuff like that. And I think she moved on and married rich. And that's why I actually think Angus doesn't come from money. I don't think she's from money. I think that they got, like, maybe he is from money. I don't know. But I always felt like this character doesn't come from money. He doesn't know how to act like an aristocrat. And I think he married into money. And that's why he's been pushed here, because he's been rebelling so much that this is like the final straw. And if he fails here at Barton, he's going to go into the military academy. And that is one reason why Paul like steps up for him, being like, "Your kid's smart, he's bright, he has a future, he's just misguided, he's going to do good. I took him on the trip. It's my fault we went to his father's house. Don't kick him out of this school. Don't put him into military school. Your kid has a future here. You just need to help him along and be there for him." And so he does that speech. He gets fired. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of the movie, really. He gets fired. You know what I'm saying? He sacrificed his career for Angus. And this is, okay, so we're at the end of the movie. Like, that's the end of the movie. And there is a heartwarming moment between Angus and Paul as Paul's packed up his truck, his car, and the U-Haul. And I just wanted to say one thing. Oh, I forgot something. Oh, yeah. I did forget why they went to the city in the first place. Okay, hold on. We'll get back to that. I'm sorry. It just dawned on me now. Like, oh yeah, that's why they went into town. Oh, silly me, because I totally forgot. But as I'm explaining, this is what happens. Whatever, man. This is how I review stuff. So deal with it. Anyways, there's this moment shared between the two. Okay, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the ending. And it's mostly because I just didn't like the ending. Like, okay, so they have this moment of time, they're talking to each other, and then Angus literally just goes, okay, bye. And, like, that's it. Like, there's no acknowledgement that, at least I felt like there was no acknowledgement that Paul sacrificed his career for this boy to carry on and, like, do something good with his life. And literally Angus is just like, okay, thanks, bye. Like, it's just that. I don't even think he says thanks. It's just like, okay, bye. And I'm like, wait a minute. There should be a speech here. Like, hey, I did this for you. Like, there should have been something there. Something more. I don't know. It felt so bad for me. I was like, I'm so invested in these characters. I'm like, he sacrificed everything for you, boy. And you're just like, okay, bye. And I wanted something better for the ending. Maybe that's why I'm at a 3.5, 4 with this movie. There's a couple things in this movie that just rubbed me the wrong way. But maybe you guys will like it. I don't know. Tell me in the comments below. Anyways, before I leave, I just want to put a correction in here. The reason why they went to town in the first place, for the first time too, is Angus dislocates his shoulder. That's right, because he does some angsty thing off the pommel horse and falls down and dislocates his shoulder. So they have to take him into town. And when they're in town, they go to the hospital. And this is where the first bonding moment is. Angus lies and says, like, let's not make this an insurance claim, because if they find out that he got hurt at school, the teacher would get fired. So this is the first time he takes the bullet for Paul. And that's why Paul takes the bullet for him at the end. It's like, hey, I did this, you do this kind of thing. And that's why they go to the town, and that's why he has a sling, and they show them pulling his arm back in, and then they go to the restaurant afterwards as kind of like a thank you. Let's talk, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I should have mentioned that. I totally forgot about it until now. Sorry. It happens. Anyways, that's the end of the review. I really enjoyed this film a lot. It really just hit me in that nostalgia, warm Christmas feels. I just loved it. I loved it. I really did. And I think everyone should go and see this movie if you can. And try and go and see it in the theaters. But if you have to wait until it comes out on digital to buy it or rent it, I would recommend that you do that and enjoy it. Get that hot cocoa. Maybe close the curtains, get nice and warm, get your favorite blanket, get maybe a couple Christmas treats, get the hot cocoa going, and just live in this movie for a bit. You know what I'm saying? You will not be disappointed. Trust me. You're going to love it. And will I buy it for the collection? 100% day one purchase. Whenever that comes out, I'm getting it. I don't care. I can't wait to watch it again. Anyways, that's it. I'm going to go. I think the next movie I'm seeing is Hunger Games, and then Hunger Games, Thanksgiving, and Napoleon are the next 3 films. So I got to go. Thank you, everybody. Whatever movies you are watching, I hope you're loving them and digging them, because I'm out of here. Peace out. Bye.